And welcome to Leadership as a Philosophy, Not a Checklist. This is going to be on Field Manual 22-10 from 1951. Before you start on this one, please, just so you have continuity, go watch the discussion I did on 1948 and then the intro so you understand what I'm doing, because this is all iterative. So I'm going to say some stuff that I've said before. I don't want to repeat it because otherwise these become too long. So, as before, we're going to be swapping back and forth to look at the document, or the original document. So here you go, 22-10, 1951, very cool. Unlike with 1948, I don't know these people. I probably should be embarrassed I don't, but I was never taught who they were. But I'm going to start to frame your mind that this one is a little bit of a mess. They make some assertions and make some statements at the beginning that aren't coherent and they don't follow. And so you'll notice what will happen is over the other documents we're going to do in the future, you'll see where this sort of starts, they started in the wrong direction and kind of kept going. However, there are some good things later on. So whoever was tasked, because I'm sure one person didn't write this, I'm sure that this was, need this thing updated, send it out, 20 people disappeared, came back with their inputs, they argued about what input, and then they published it. Those same 20 people didn't sit in a room and read it to make sure that it made sense as a whole. And I know that because I have been around when documents were being produced in the Army, and that's sort of the way it went. But if it's going to be something this important, if you get this right, you shouldn't have to rewrite it. So you're going to find out we keep having to rewrite it because they keep making mistakes. Okay, so I'm going to start off right away. You have to have seen the other videos to see where I'm coming from. So some of the assertions and the things I make are going to sound like I'm just pulling it out of thin air, but there are other videos that discuss it. Okay, purpose of the study of leadership. Great. Today more than ever. Now this is a great thing. This line, this opening paragraph can be take out business or take out soldier, leader, commander, and put down, and mission and unit, and put down boss, employee, organization, team. It's all the same. The leadership is the same. There's no difference. There is no difference, I'm telling you. So this statement from 1951, same today, right? Today, more than ever in history, the Army is in need of leadership of the highest caliber. With the increase in the complexity of warfare, the science of war is increasingly dependent upon human guidance. No matter how complicated it may become, war is always waged by men. The man who leads and the men who are led win wars. That sentence is complicated. Okay, so every member of our military force must be a leader, actually or potentially. That's a bold statement. What does that mean? Do they really mean that? Because as we have shown throughout the past year on this project, that's just not possible. It's not going to happen. You could potentially have the entire Army full of leaders, but your selection and identification process would be so costly and so incredible. And if you got a whole bunch of leaders, who's following? Right? Who's doing the work? So I'm not sure where that sentence came from. It's one of those things where you want to argue with them, say, what are you talking about? You can't have everybody leading. Because then nothing gets done. Everybody just argues about who's in charge. So an interesting assertion, and it's just there, no explanation. And to me, that's a big deal. So I highlighted some of these other ones. So we've talked about this before. In the ultimate sense, leadership is not inherent. It depends upon traits which can be developed and upon application of techniques which can be learned. Okay. But once again, we're going to this is picking nits, right? So leadership is inherent. It's a talent. Now, If you have that, so make that statement. We've discussed it already. It's a creative talent, just like music and art and everything else. So you're born and you have that talent, just like everybody's born with some sort of a talent to do something. It might not be artistic. It might be some other thing they're really good at. Everybody's born with that. They didn't inherit that from their parents. So it's not inherited, but you're born with the inherent leadership talent. Now, if you have that leadership talent and you don't have the right characteristics, the philosophy, the 4 pillars that we talk about, if you don't have integrity, humility, empathy, and vigilance, then you're not going to be a great leader. You're going to be a great bad leader. Because if you have the opposite of those, you have the talent, which means that you can get people to do stuff and then abuse that power, right? And then the application of these techniques, and then you go learn some techniques. Okay, that's getting some wisdom. So I agree with that. You can teach somebody the techniques, but let's take that. So I take somebody with the talent, they have good characteristics, and we give them some wisdom and send them out to lead. They'll be amazing. If I take somebody who has no leadership ability whatsoever, and I tell them you have to be humble, you have to have empathy, you have to be vigilant, and you have to have humility or have to have integrity, and then send them out with some techniques, a little guidebook, what's that look like? That's when you get the boss that we talked about somewhere else. Maybe I've mentioned it a couple times by now. You get the person that walks up and says, it's Tuesday. Today's empathy day. How are you doing today? Oh, I'm fine, except for my son is, okay. No, okay. So, is there anything in your family that I need to be concerned about? Well, yeah, as I was trying to say, my son has a little bit, okay, hold on. I've got to go through my list here. And then, is there anything that impacts, is there anything that could be done here differently to make your job better? Well, actually, I would like it if you paid a little more. No. Okay, good. So, okay, thank you. And then that person an hour later comes walking up and says, hey, my son's fever is now 104. I got to take him out of school. You go, well, why didn't I know about this before? I can't believe that, blah, blah, blah. I've seen it happen. And I wanted to go, honestly, I felt violent because then it was this big thing making the person feel guilty. They had to go take care of their family. What's a leader do? Leader walks up, hey, Lisa, how you doing? Oh, well, I'm okay. What's the matter? Normally you're in a good mood. You seem a little down. Well, my son, he was sort of running a fever when he left today, and I'm worried he might be getting sick and the school might call. Well, what do you need? Do you need to go right now? Is it something that you need to take care of right now? Should I get somebody to cover for you? No, I think I'm okay. Are you sure? What was it? What other symptoms did he have? Blah, 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 blah. All right, don't be stubborn because you're not going to get in trouble. I want you to take care of your family. Family is more important than this silly job. So, are you sure? I'm okay. Okay. So then the leader walks off and says, hey, Lisa's son is running a fever. She might have to leave soon. Just because kids don't, recover immediately in the middle of the day from a fever, or they do. Hey, got to be ready to do that. Are you cool? Oh, sure. I'll help out if we need to. An hour later, Lisa comes up. My son's sick. She's like, go. I got it covered. Don't worry. Get out of here. Go. Got it covered. That's leadership. The problem is I have seen more of the first example than the second example. That's this. All right. So here we go again. Another bold assumption. So leadership is an art which can be acquired, cultivated, and practiced by anyone who possesses the mental and physical ability and the moral and ethical integrity expected of a commissioned and non-commissioned officer. Okay, that's sort of a restatement of the first one because you got moral integrity, ability, mental ability. Okay, that sounds like a talent. Mental ability? Okay, but that flies in the face of this because it says you have to learn the traits and the techniques. Okay? But once again, it's an art. We all know that. Just say, anybody can be a painter. Right, but can you be any good? Anybody can play the piano. Sure, I can play chopsticks. Probably in the wrong key. I wouldn't even know where to start. I know you go like this. Right? So you can teach anybody the steps, but can they apply them in a way that works? So saying that it's an art is a correct statement, but saying anybody's an artist, okay, but that's not the truth either. We talked about the Pareto distribution. You get this line where there's nothing, and then all of a sudden it goes up, and then it's way at the top. I mean, right now I have a Pareto distribution on my YouTube channel. I have one video that's got all of the views. It's got, if you total up all my videos, that totals up to that one video's views. And then there's a couple like this, and then it goes like this, and then there's a whole bunch with very few. So it's the same thing with leadership. We can't say that it applies to everything, and then when it comes to leadership, say something different. All right, here we go. Next statement that sort of doesn't follow. Developing the art is a continuing process which involves the recognition and practice of the basic traits of leadership and the understanding and application of sound leadership principles and techniques. So are they saying the same thing three different ways here? That's what it seems like, right? Developing the art. Sure. Okay. If somebody has the artistic talent and they don't practice it, it's not going to get better. Or you've got somebody who's just so insanely good, when those people are super rare. They're so insanely good that they can just do it. It's just miraculous. They're just sitting there throwing colors and paints and this masterpiece comes out. So I agree that you should try to develop your art. The problem is the development isn't colors and notes. It's how do you deal with people? And look, let me help you out with your vigilance, young Padawan. Let me put my arm around you and say, look, I saw what you were doing, but did you think these two steps? Oh, no, I didn't. Well, those are the things that, you got to start thinking of all of the, here's the swirls and chaos, and you got to think where the swirls are going to go. So what bothers me about that is this statement, there's a bunch of partially true statements in here. Anyway, now let's go to the concluding thing. This is still just the beginning couple pages. So we have here, despite this guide, it constantly must be borne in mind that successful leaders of the past were not all of the same pattern, nor did they use all of the same methods of attaining success. False. All of them, however, consciously or unconsciously, understood the basic concepts of leadership and successfully practiced many of the techniques presented in this manual. So you just said that great leaders in the past, or successful leaders in the past, unconsciously or consciously knew that this was going on or had these concepts and practiced many of them. If everybody can learn them and do them, then every leader should have been successful, correct? If we're using the assertion from the first page. No. Why is there successful? There shouldn't be any difference. But I love this. Unconsciously this right here, the thing where I said false. They used the same methods of attaining success. Yes, they did. This is why that I say that the definition that I propose, I still haven't had somebody come back and say that's completely useless. We discuss it, but it's not. So they all attuned to competence and environmental hierarchies in pursuit of a goal. They got the best people or the best people available and either made them better or, were able to interject themselves with some motivation. They fixed the environment and they achieved the goal. That's what happened every time in every leadership situation from everywhere in the past. It's the same thing. Now, just like a conductor, you're going to tune things differently. So they may have tuned differently, but they were still tuning. They may have made the environment different, but they still were adjusting the environment. They all achieved the goal. So yes, they may have had a different way, but they were doing essentially the essence of what they were doing was the tuning, environment, competence, goal. I've been trying to break that and I can't. Because we're going down to the essence, because then it can apply to everything. All right, so this bothers me too. The principles and techniques presented herein are the result of an analysis of outstanding leadership displayed by successful leaders, both military and civilian, of this and other countries. I wish that they had included the analysis, because they didn't. Right? I wish that they had, at the end, here's all of our notes on what we analyzed. That would have been amazing, because, imagine that, getting the analysis from 1951. Okay. So now let's go down here. So I'm going to just show a couple of things real quick because I'm going to not skip around a lot, but I'm just going to highlight what's covered in the thing. So basic concepts, the fundamentals, leadership principles and traits, which we're going to slide for. Leadership techniques, we have a slide for. And then they talk about special leadership techniques. And this is where I think it's funny because they say that leadership's different in combat. Leadership is different when you're communicating. Leadership is different when you're mobilizing. Leadership is it's like, no, leadership is the same thing. So this is where I said it got messy. They started trying to make it's an interesting guidebook. It's here's some things to think about if you're an occupation force. Okay, here's some things, but calling it leadership in this, it's just here's some high points to remember. And then leadership of female groups. The funny thing is, in 1948, it said that leadership is leadership is leadership. Now it says, well, we got to lead women different. The funny part is the paragraph that says there's no difference with leadership in women. Why did you have to put a paragraph in there to say that? Leadership is leadership. Leadership is not associated with anything external, right? I'm joking around that I say leader. If a platypus had all the leadership things, I would put a platypus in charge. Because as far as I know, nobody's offended by platypi. All right, so real quick, back to some slides. And I'm sorry I'm rushing. I really am trying not to make this thing too long because I know it's a problem. Okay, so definitions. Hey, good. We've got some definitions now. Commander, title of an officer in charge of a company, battery, or larger unit. Cool. Leader, a military person who possesses qualities necessary to direct others. Nope. Leader is a person who possesses qualities necessary to direct others. So it just said right here, right? This contradicts the opening statement where it says leadership is not inherent. Well, then how do you possess these qualities? All right, leadership is the art of influencing human behavior. This is from 1948. Techniques will vary greatly depending on the size of command, the types of people, and the personality of the commander and the situation. Half true again, right? The techniques are still the same. You're attuning competence and environment in pursuit of a goal. If you're at the ether in an organization, so you're the executive vice president in charge of Tiddlywinks, or you're commanding general of such and such, you're still doing the same stuff. You still have to check. You still have to have humility. You still have to have empathy. You have to have integrity. And then you got to go and check that all of your subordinate units have that. And so the competence hierarchy that you're attuning are ones that are closer to you. And that's the reason that we talk about leaders at every level of the organization, because you go check on those leaders and then go check down. Remember the pyramid from the hierarchy, chapter 4 in the original playlist. The leader at the top checks the leaders down, and the leaders at the bottom check up. And so saying that the techniques will vary, yes, but the thing is, you don't know what the technique is going to be. But you certainly are still going to have to do all those same activities. All right. And then we've got a principle is the fundamental rule or characteristic. Leadership technique is method of applying a leadership principle. And leadership trait is anything distinguishing personal quality that is helpful in the exercise of leadership. All right. Again, those are cool, but not everybody has those. But it's okay. You don't need them to. So real quick, talk about leadership principles. Now, what I love about these is, and this is going to sound confusing right away. So they've got right here, principle 1, know your job. Principle 2, know yourself. Principle 3, know your people. Principle 4, keep your people informed. And then there's another no here somewhere. Employ your command in accordance with its capabilities. That's still knowledge, right? But all these are all good. These are all things you should do as a boss. There's nothing wrong with any of these. Ensure that the task is understood, supervised, accomplished. Train your people as a team. Make sound, timely decisions. All that's great. Well, you ready for this? So how many no's is that? 1, 2, 3 no's, 4 no's. let's go to what they call, these are the leadership characteristics or leadership traits. Now, if you remember, it's going to get a little confusing. The blue ones are all new. They removed knowledge. I had to laugh. They say that you should know, but we're going to take knowledge out of something that you should have as a leadership trait. Now, what they took out was knowledge and endurance, but they added 9 more to the leadership traits. But what I think is so hilarious is what are the 4 pillars, the 4 essential things that you should have as a leader? Well, integrity, empathy, humility, vigilance. Well, look at this. First one, alertness, vigilance. This one is new, so promptness and wide awakeness. I'm not sure what that means. Pay attention. So it should just be vigilance. Vigilance is being awake. Vigilance is being on guard, right? Although guards go to sleep. Bearing and courage are the same. Decisiveness. Now, what's decisiveness? Decisiveness and initiative. There's no need. Pick one. You know, taking initiative and being decisive are the same things. There's a problem, fix it. Decide, go. Dependability, same, no change. Unselfishness is new. But what's that? That's another type of humility. One that I don't understand is force. Right? The ability to impose one's will upon another. Is that a leadership trait? Do you want me to go around imposing my will? Or should it be, hey, here's the mission. Here's what we're trying to get done. Here's the task for the day. Here's what you're getting paid to do. Here's what you're expert at. Could you make sure you do that for me? Yeah, I'll do that. Great, thank you. I would rather do it that way than force, because if I force you to do it, you're only going to do what I asked you to do, or what I told you to do. Humility. Look what just made it on the list. Humility, freedom from arrogance and unjustifiable pride, which is unselfishness. So why are we duplicating stuff? Somebody just wanted to put in all the cool words, I guess. Humor. Humor is cool. Is that a leadership trait? I don't know. Being able to not let things go to catastrophe? Cool, but I've known some leaders that I thought were amazing that I never heard them say anything funny ever once or make a joke. Now, I also was a couple levels below them, so they may have done that with people, the people that were closer up to them. But one of the greatest leaders I ever knew, I never heard him say a joke, and one of the women too. So I don't know. I don't know if that's a leadership characteristic. It's not bad. But also, I would say humor, letting people around you crack the jokes is cool too. So in other words, not being so uptight that if somebody tries to make light in a chaotic situation that you freak out. All right. Initiative we had before. Integrity. Cool. Integrity wasn't on the other list. Honesty and moral character of the leader that must be unquestioned. I don't know about that definition, but sure. Loyalty. Now, loyalty we could talk about for 10 hours, right? Sympathy or empathy, the capacity of sharing the feelings of those with whom one is associated, the ability to deal with subordinates and superiors in an appropriate manner without giving offense. Those two are empathy, right? But loyalty is sticky, right? What's the loyalty supposed to be? And so I've been thinking about this and wrestling with it forever. You should be loyal to the people above and below you as long as they are still being loyal to whatever the overall ethic is or whatever the overall goal is. So in My Lai, people were loyal to the bosses, but the bosses were not doing the right thing, so they did not deserve loyalty. Right? Yeah, if the boss is saying we got to go do this and here's what we're going to do, and you've heard this a million times. I want to go do this. It's not illegal, it's not immoral, it's not unethical. And it's not going to put anybody in extreme danger, but it's dumb as anything. Well, I got to do it because the boss said so. Right? Because there's no justifiable reason to do it because, hey, the boss is the boss is the boss. You go get the thing done. If the boss has any integrity and humility and all that sort of stuff, they'll realize it's stupid afterwards or whatever. But somebody says, we're going to do this extreme risk, extraordinarily thing, blah, 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 because I got to get promoted. We're going to have to talk about this a lot. I'm going to write down some paperwork that says that I didn't agree. so that when everybody comes down and starts questioning and you start trying to throw people under the bus, I will not be one of those people. But how do you do that? You do that by not putting people in charge that are going to make those stupid decisions. The big bosses should never put subordinates in a position where they should have to question their loyalty. Right? So loyalty, and there's other documents that I'll show you where loyalty is you must never question the boss. Well, that's great if the boss is going to make sound decisions. Okay, so those are the significant differences. There is, however, one other thing that I wanted to talk about, which I enjoy. I love it, and it's page 12. Cool. So here we go. Indications of military leadership. Now, just take out military, indications of leadership. So there are 4 qualities of an organization that you can tell whether or not they've got good or bad leadership. It's just like we talked about all the way back in the problem chapter. Here's good leadership. You've got good versions of these. Bad leadership, you got bad versions. And so it's discipline, morale, esprit de corps, and degree of efficiency or proficiency. So discipline, take out military again. It's a state of order and obedience existing within an organization. Are they doing the tasks they're supposed to do? Is the team, following whatever the protocols are? Are you making sure, is everything basically in the organization running without somebody having to walk around and yell and holler and correct all the time? So are people just doing the right thing? Are people wearing whatever your organization's uniform is? Are they wearing that correctly? Are they caring for their stuff? Are they doing their daily, like we talked about? So morale. What's the morale like? People calling out sick, people coming in smiling, people, come in and say, well, I would much rather be with my family, but this is the second best thing. Or are they coming in looking dreary? They're walking in at, you start work at 8 o'clock and they're in there at 7:59 and 59 seconds, which, to be honest, I was that way, but not because I had bad morale. I just didn't want to give anybody free time. I did that enough when I was in the Army. When I was doing stuff, or when I was doing things afterwards, nope, you didn't get free stuff from me. But are when the boss walks in, do people hide, or are they neutral, or do they wave or say, "Hey, boss," or whatever? Is the boss checking on people? Are they proud to talk about where they work? There's a place that's here in town that is, if anybody's from where I am and I start talking, they're going to guess what it is, but it's got the worst reputation in town, but they pay really well. So they treat people like garbage. They're abusive. The leadership is terrible. They just treat everybody like absolute garbage, but they pay well. And so anytime somebody left where I was, because I couldn't pay them enough, they would go and I said, "Hey, you're welcome to come back if we've got a spot." And a few of them would come back, right? But, that place is terrible. Terrible. I wanted so bad to go over there and say, "Hey, I'll go, let me come over here and fix this place," just because I hate seeing people suffer. I hate seeing people suffer at work. There's no reason for it. Why do we have to make work miserable? Can we make it can we impart the least amount of misery possible while still getting the job done? All right, esprit de corps, same idea. Is everybody happy? Are they upbeat? Are they ready to go? And then proficiency, are people doing stuff? Efficiency, are they able to accomplish their assigned tasks, without being told? Are they doing them to the best level possible? All that sort of stuff. So if you have good versions of those, you have a leader in charge. If you have bad versions, you either have a bad leader or no leader. And so you need to take action, because people don't deserve to be treated like garbage. They just don't. You can't justify to me why you should abuse people. There's no use for it, because who are you? Sorry, I'm saying you like you're in charge. The camera. Okay. So that was basically the significant differences. But like I said, it's a little messy. There's some stuff that doesn't follow. I'm really excited to get to the next one, because next one's 1958, and that one has some gems in it That one's got some perfect. I would take those, and I'm joking around that I may make an unofficial leadership manual where I'll take the things that are correct out of all these and put them together, and obviously change the stuff, and you'll be able to use it for anybody. So, yep, that's all that we've got for that one. And as always, I appreciate your patience. I know these are long, and I know that it's a lot of thinking. But this is what it takes. Leadership is not a one-liner. It's just not. Okay. Thank you very much for your time, and I really genuinely hope that you have a great day. Thanks.